Okay. All right. Well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our student panel, Senior Insights into Careers and Choosing a Major. My name is Mallory Newby, and I'm a career coach at the University Career Center, where I assist students from the College of Education and Human Development, as well as the Kent School of Social Work. So first, just let me say how excited I am today for this event and to hear from our wonderful student panelists. And our goal for today's discussion is to bring students together to provide advice and encouragement when it comes to selecting a major. It's very common for students to feel overwhelmed with the task of picking a major or a career path. And while the UCC is always here to help in that process, it's great to get some advice from some of our top and finest seniors. So before we meet our panelists and get into today's discussion, we have just a few housekeeping items to go over. Just be sure to mute your microphone and turn off your video if you're not a panelist. Today's event will be recorded and uploaded to the Student Affairs YouTube channel, as well as located on our website. And then finally, remember today's goal is for you as students to have the opportunity to ask questions and receive guidance in choosing a major. So we want to encourage you to ask questions in the chat feature, and I'll be monitoring those throughout our discussion. So with that being said, let's meet our panelists. We'll start with Arabella and we'll go down the line of order of response. So just include your major, if you have a minor, class year, and a little bit about yourself and future plans.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Arabella Werner. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. I'm graduating in May of this year. I'm majoring in communication with a minor in Spanish. And my job experience consists of coaching gymnastics, teaching ESL at Kentucky Refugee Ministries, and working on some social media marketing with a company called The Conversationalist. I'm involved on campus with ELSB, Mental and Physical Health Committee, and Spanish Honor Society, and I really enjoy being involved. I'm also in the photography club, and I'm going into sales after graduation. So that's a little bit about me.
My name is Chidimo Keke. I'm a first-generation American of Nigerian descent. I am about to graduate this semester, May 2021. Currently majoring in public health with a minor in biology. I'm pre-med student, so I'm looking to apply for medical school in the future. But as of right now, I have sights on getting my master's in public health before I pursue medicine. In my undergraduate career, I was involved in the Society of Porter Scholars, Adidas Campus, and ELSB and SAP.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming out. I'm Mark Pinto. I am a senior at U of L. I was born and raised in this city, lived here all of my life, and my major is political science with a track of law and public policy. I greatly love government and the work that I hope that we can do together in government to provide a just and right society for the majority of people. I've been blessed and privileged to work as a Geek Squad repair agent throughout my education career, so I'm able to make a good amount of income, live on my own, and be self-sustained. However, that's not the career goal that I would like to choose. I want a job within local government. And I plan to go to the master's school here in U of L with public administration and further that goal. So thank you all for coming out, and we look forward to this panel.
Thank you, Mark. My name is Jelena Slayton. I am a senior. I graduated in May. So excited. I'm a psychology major. So my future plans are I will be moving to Houston this summer to work with the Teach for America program. So I'm going to be teaching elementary school for 2 years. And then I want to go into occupational therapy program and become a pediatric OT. So I'm really excited about that. Here on campus, I've been involved in a variety of things. From the Society of Porter Scholars, Connect Peer Mentoring Program. We mentor incoming African-American freshmen. Also, I have did community service at Wayside Christian Mission at downtown Louisville. So yeah, I've been doing that since my freshman year. And also I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Today is actually our Founders Day. So shout out to all my sorors out there. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Thank you all so much for those wonderful introductions. So we'll just get started with some of the opening questions. And then remember, students, we want to hear from you today and know what's on your mind when it comes to majors. But our first question revolves around just deciding on a major. So many students are overwhelmed with that task of deciding on a major or declaring a major. Will you tell us how you decided on your major, and at any point in your education journey, were you undecided or did you switch majors?
Yeah, so I decided on my major because I felt that communications was a pretty broad field or opportunity, I would say. So the communications department at U of L offers anything from, social media marketing classes to interpersonal communication to international communication. And I think communication is also very important, not only in the professional realm, but also personally, when interpersonally. So that's why I chose communication. I actually was originally a psychology major. And I think that it's important to be able to realize, go into a major and be like, oh, maybe this isn't for me. And I really enjoyed psychology, but just changing to communications was more kind of what I wanted. But I definitely think it's important to take classes in like many of your fields of interest. And so also I'm a Spanish minor because I've been taking Spanish since second grade, and I felt that it was kind of my strong suit. So I just kept that up, and that's why I'm minoring in Spanish.
I chose the discipline of political science because I felt that very inspired to essentially form a government that works for all people. And I believe that work in the public sector is very productive for society. So I had the privilege just not too long ago of being an intern with the Louisville Metro Council for President David James, and we worked on various different issues that affected Louisville, and I figured that that is what I wanted to advance with my career.
As you all probably could tell, I'm still getting used to the whole Zoom thing. I know my—
Yeah, I am too. I'm sorry, Jenny. I think I cut in front of you. I think
I'm like cut off. Yeah. But so originally I was a biology major coming in until I found myself in the School of Public Health, just kind of looking for more ways to take classes that had to do with, my passions and what I wanted to do in the future. So in the future, I want to be a physician, but I knew that, being a physician had its cons in terms of what I was wanting in a career. I was looking for a career that kind of allowed me to flourish using my public health skills and getting more education in that realm, as well as public health or public speaking and just communications that I knew I couldn't really get from just taking all the biologies and sciences and staying in labs all the time. So public health for me was kind of like the perfect schism to kind of bridge the gap between the two when it comes to like community health and just the sciences in general. So it was a perfect match for me.
Yeah, so I came in as a biology major because I wanted to be orthodontist. Really, I didn't want to be orthodontist. It just sounded cool. And then I started taking biology classes. And when I came in, I thought that if you wanted to go to dental school, medical school, anything in like the health profession, that you had to be a biology major. So that's was a very big misconception by not just me, but a lot of people that I was around at that time. So once I was like, I don't even like biology. And advisors were like, you don't have to take biology. You don't have to be a major in biology. I was like, okay. So then that's when I switched. And I switched to exercise science because I wanted to go into occupational therapy. Again, another misconception that I thought I had to be exercise science to go into any kind of therapy. And that's not true. So I realized I didn't like that either. And so I had taken psychology classes, but I was like, how will this correlate with what I want to do? And a lot of the majors are really interdisciplinary. So once I learned that, I was like, find what you like, choose that major that you like, and then take like prerequisites that you need, like all of that can go into your degree. So that's how I got to psychology, and I really just like the study of psychology, how it a lot of my classes outside of psychology really like are interdisciplinary, and they all like correlate, and I really like when like my classes correlate even though they're not in like the same field. So that's why I chose psychology, and I really like it. And even though I changed my major 3 times, I'm still graduating in 4 years. So yeah.
Well, congrats. And those are some good points, Jelena. That leads into my next question. Sometimes we have in our mind a preconceived notion about what a particular major or career path is going to be like. So for all the panelists, has there been anything that surprised you about your major, your program, or that career path you're pursuing?
Yeah, so for me, coming in as a psychology major, I didn't really know exactly what I wanted. And once I switched to communication, I was kind of hard on myself. A lot of my friends were like, "Oh, like, what are you going to do with that? It's an easy major." And that was kind of something that surprised me, is it's actually not only a very useful major, there are some challenging elements to it. It's a lot of writing, a lot of long papers and research, and I really enjoy doing those things, and getting close to my professors. So that was just one kind of thing that surprised me, is honestly, it can be challenging, but it's really worth it. And I think at the end of the day, doing what you love is the most important thing when choosing a major.
I think the biggest thing that surprised me was, I guess, how applicable it was to all facets of health when it comes to public health. I feel like before I actually knew what public health was, this idea or this preconceived notion of what it was just, I remember I'd tell people I'm a public health major, and they'd be like, "Oh, so like when people go to the restaurants, you give the scores for those restaurants, right?" I was like, that's not the only, I promise you, that's not all what public health is. But even kind of looking in retrospect of the current condition right now and the whole pandemic, public health is very much centered around that. And so even now, people are beginning to see how, applicable it is to all facets of our lives. But it also kind of gives me the fluidity to kind of do what I want in that field. Knowing that, I love public speaking, I love creative writing, I love content creating. So actually right now I'm actually working on a project with the School of Medicine, educating people, but also innovatively doing that through art. And so with public health, I can do that, right? Because it's so fluid, and I just have so much that I can work with in that facet.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Cheatham, because I also think the psychology is like has a lot of fluidity. And like when I first got into it, I was just like, like it studied the brain. Like every time I say I'm a psychology major, they're like, "Oh, so you're reading my mind right now?" And I'm like, they don't teach us that in class. So really just like being able to see all the aspects that go into like psychology. Like there are so many classes you can take. And also now I'm doing my honors thesis. So I'm doing research. So I've been doing research for like a year. And my research actually goes along with like infant cognition and child development. And that's what I'm interested in. So like I would have never thought that like me going into psychology, I would be able to learn about like childhood development or infant cognition or doing research. And it's just like once you actually put yourself out there and like actually dive deep into your major, like you can find a lot of things that are interesting to you that you didn't even know was offered throughout your major. So yeah.
And
Jelena,
with this, I'm sorry, Mallory, go ahead.
no, you go ahead, Mark. I'm so sorry.
With the School of Political Science, there are a lot of students that are there to be either lawyers and or politicians. And the School of Political Science is oftentimes sort of like a feed undergraduate to those disciplines, especially law school. But going through the political science undergraduate program, I realized that I do not want to be a lawyer at all. In fact, I don't even aspire to be a politician. I want to work within a government agency, whether that be Parks and Recreations, Public Works, being a director of budgetary funds, or employee relations representing the unions, anything like that. And the mastery program of public administration is definitely a good route to go if anyone wants to work within the public sector, because it's pretty much like a master's of business administration, but just for the public sector. So anyone at all interested in doing that, I would greatly recommend it. And I also realized throughout my undergraduate that I love sociology and the sociology classes for the social sciences requirements that all of us arts and sciences students need, because of how sociology goes so well with political science in addressing the issues of wealth and income inequality, racial injustice, environmental injustice, all injustices in the world, and how we can make this world a better place for all. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mark, and I apologize about that. So you all are leading really well into the next few questions here. You know, there's always going to be parts of our education or our jobs that we like more than others. So tell us which classes you've enjoyed most from your major or electives, and then also what did you enjoy the least?
Yeah, so I would say my favorite classes I've taken thus far in communications would be definitely international communication. Was one of them. I think that class gave me a lot of insight kind of on media regulations, not only domestically, but internationally, which I found really informative and helpful. It gave me kind of a different perspective on things. And I also did a lot of research projects and papers in that class that I really enjoyed. And I really had a great professor. Dr. Son's great. I recommend him. Another class I really enjoyed in communications would definitely be Persuasion. I think that definitely helped me develop argumentative skills, persuasive skills, and I also really enjoyed my professor there. And then as far as Spanish, I would definitely recommend doing an internship. That gave me a lot of different perspectives, not only kind of on organizations within our city that help refugees, such as KRM where I worked, but it kind of helped my public speaking, my teaching skills, and my Spanish translation skills as well.
I guess I can start with my least favorite class. I'd say, so for my biology minor, I had to fulfill a bunch of labs, a bunch of sciences as a pre-med major. But I'd say my least favorite class was probably biology 244, just because it was so much, dissection of the scientific method, applying that to, or kind of going to then learning about the different phylums and the different classes, if it's plants or marine animals. It was just very not what I wanted to learn, but it was a necessary evil for sure. And it honestly just kind of better prepared me for the more difficult classes that I was going to be taking anyway. But I would say my favorite class was a public health class, epidemiology, just because of how applicable it was to the real world, the real conditions of the time that we're living in right now. And just, I guess, the study of diseases and how they move is just something that's very interesting to me.
Throughout my time, my least favorite classes were the law requirements that us political science classes or students must take. And not because the professors were not enjoyable or the material wasn't. Dr. Bunk, Dr. Wallace, Dr. Moyer, all of my professors have been absolutely phenomenal. However, the law classes and the legal jargon and the language was just not something that I was interested at all. And I realized that very quickly. However, the public administration undergraduate class I took, it was actually the first time that it was being taught in 15, 20 years by Janet Kelly, a professor in the Master's School of Political Science. And she was the best professor I've ever had. And that's whenever I really realized that I wanted to work within a local public agency, whether as a bureaucrat, and that may seem boring to a lot of people. I'm sure it might be sometimes, but either way, we are making a difference, and I've enjoyed all of my classes. So,
Yeah, so my least favorite class, I'm gonna have to agree with Cheatham, is definitely biology. I'm gonna say all my biology classes, but 242 and 244, like it just doesn't click. So it wasn't the class that was bad, it was just like the information. I wasn't disciplined to learn it on my own, you know? But we're not gonna talk about that. My favorite classes were within the psychology department. I took an honor seminar, and it was like a human memory guide. So it like we discussed like how the memory works, and how like we remember stuff, why we remember things, why we don't remember things. And it was just like really interesting because it's like when I came to college, it's not something that I thought there would be a class for. But that ended up being my favorite class. And Dr. Lyle, my favorite professor ever, he taught it. And so he does a lot of like really good techniques in his class, like doing like pyramids that are kind of like exit slips so that you like remember what you learned throughout the day. And I felt that very useful because I do want to teach elementary for 2 years when I go to Houston, and I want to implement that and see how that works for elementary students. So he's taught me a lot, even things that like aren't even a part of like the class. And then outside of my major, ASL, so I took sign language and I fell in love with sign language. So I'm probably going to further that after I graduate, and that'll be good for my future plans as well. So yeah.
Very interesting. So at the University Career Center, we often tell our students that, your major doesn't always equal a specific career path, especially with the majors in social sciences. That career trajectory is just not always so clear. So what would you say to someone who knows maybe what they want to study, but doesn't necessarily know what career that they want to pursue?
Yeah, so I think that it's great that you know what you want to study, because honestly, if you know what you want to study, there are so many avenues to go down from there. When I decided to switch to communication, I was a bit nervous because I didn't really know what career I wanted to go into. But I think definitely utilizing certain things on campus is very helpful. For instance, utilizing the career center, making appointments with a counselor, using Reach if you need it, or the writing center. Those kind of things really are beneficial in the whole process. So I think,
question.
Definitely, figuring out your major is a first step. And then from there, throughout your classes, you'll figure out more kind of what career field you want to go into from there.
So for me, I knew I wanted to go again into a field that had to do with health. But when I wasn't 100% sure that I wanted, so initially I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. So that was always the goal for me ever since I was in high school. And so coming in as a biology major, taking on those classes, but then realizing that, but I also enjoy communicating with people. I also enjoy, understanding why people make certain decisions, that behavioral science of it, but also that sociology science that Mark was mentioning earlier. Just understanding how groups work, knowing that there is a career within that career that will fit me perfectly, a career within medicine that will allow me to be, a liaison or representative of a healthcare organization, something like that. Knowing that that's possible, incorporating, my love for science and biology with my love for public health and people in general, and ensuring that, our communities are living healthy in the best ways possible, tying in that social justice aspect to it, all of that's applicable. And just knowing that, I guess, honestly, doing your homework, looking more into what's there, what the, I guess, realm of whatever career you're looking into, knowing what's available for you, and kind of just introspectively looking at, okay, well, what will make me happy? What will I be fulfilled in if I pursue this particular path?
You are exactly right with that keyword, fulfill. Like I was saying, how when I started out as a political science major, I knew exactly what I wanted to study, but I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do with that degree and what career that I wanted to advance. But I thought to myself, what is the best way that I can make a difference, not only for myself, but for my community here at home, and for the majority of people who may be less privileged than me? And by making that difference, will that cause me to feel fulfilled within my career? Because I understand that working in the public sector does not bring in a whole lot of money. Trust me, I will not be rich. I'll be lucky to make $50,000 whenever I graduate and get a job within the public sector. However, it is that fulfilling aspect. I had a good friend of mine who just recently graduated from the School of Business that started to work in the private sector with information technology, things of that nature. And he realized very quickly that he did not feel as if he was making a difference. He did not feel as if he was fulfilled. So that is a very important aspect. I'm not saying money is not important. It definitely is in the country and world that we live in now, but always find the career path that you feel fulfilled and that you will make a difference in the world.
Yes, how can I follow that? I feel like that was like the finale. But adding on to that, I would definitely just say, like, don't settle. Like, I feel like some people are like, well, I have 4 years here. Like, I have to decide it right now, and I have to know what I'm doing right now. And it's like, you don't. Like, especially your first couple of years, like, just dabble in things. Like, for instance, I would take classes outside of my major. I would apply for like maybe like a internship, or like just going to get experience somewhere. Like, I didn't know, like, when I came to the university, I didn't know anything about research, nothing. And I met a professor, and she was like, this is the research I do. She was like, you should come to the lab, read this research article that I did. And I read it, and it's like, now I'm really interested in research. Now I want to do that in the future. And it's like, it just opens your mind a lot. So like, just dab in a lot of things, like, see what you like. And you never know what you don't like until you try it. So it's okay for you to try it and not like it. That just means you don't like it. Try something else. So that would be the number one thing, following what Mark said.
That's great advice. And we do have a student question here that that joined a little bit later. So the student wants to know, were any of you undecided majors when you started your journey? And Arabella's answered this in the chat.
Yeah, I can also just, yeah, I wasn't. I just chose what I was most interested in at the time, which was psychology. I just felt like it was important for me to choose something just so I can take a few courses, or at least have like kind of a direction. And then from there, discover kind of what I like about it, what I didn't. And then from there, I can always switch. And most college students do switch majors. So.
Yeah, I was not undecided, but I probably should have been undecided. Like, I just came in based off of like no knowledge on majors. So I feel like if you are undecided, like that's okay. Like, I think me coming in undecided would have been more beneficial than me trying to choose a major just because. So if you are undecided, it's okay. It's good that you're able to take a lot of variety of classes, and then you know what you like. So don't be discouraged if you're undecided. That's perfectly okay.
Like Jelena said, it's sometimes better than being, decided that day and taking classes in a certain discipline and then realizing you don't want to do that, and then essentially having to start from square one. So being undecided is completely okay. I used to tell students that at Jefferson Community, where I transferred from, JCTC, in the tutoring center, that it's okay not to always know what exactly you want to do at this very second. Just get these prerequisites done, get your requirements done, and I promise you, you will come to that, knowledge on what you want to do.
Cheatham, did you have anything to add to that? I think you switched majors, right? Did you come in undecided?
No, I came in as a biology major, and then it was like within the first week or second week where I just found myself in the school of public health, and I spoke to Miss Quick. She kind of gave me like description of what public health was, because at first I didn't even know what it was. I just walked in. I was like, okay, hey, I'm here. And then I was like, okay, well, what you're telling me sounds like something I'm interested in and what I can see myself being in. So it kind of worked out that way.
Yeah, it's totally fine to come in as an exploratory or undecided student. And just some of the themes that we're hearing today is to try new things, and you don't know what you like until you explore different things. And sometimes finding out what you don't like helps you to find the things that you do enjoy. So we know that education opens the door for opportunity, but we also know that it's important to gain experience and make connections. So can you tell us how you went about developing your professional network?
Yeah, so I would say I started with creating a LinkedIn pretty early on. I think so. I took a gap year in between high school and college, and I think I made it probably during my gap year or shortly after. And I think it was really helpful because I already had a resume, obviously, but I think it kind of made me realize kind of my strengths, my weaknesses, and kind of laid it all out. And from there, I could build professional relationships on LinkedIn. Also, using Handshake really has been helpful for me. That's actually how I got my job offer, which I'm starting after graduation. And so I think both of those are great platforms to utilize in order to build a professional network. As far as on campus, I think getting involved with RSOs, getting close with your professors, forming those relationships is extremely important. Even, if you do build really strong relationships with your professors, it's really in your favor because you can later get job recommendations, grad school recommendations. You can be asked to do research with them. I'm doing research this semester, and it's just a great opportunity. So those are just some ways that you can, that I found successful in building professional relationships while in college.
So I did not make a LinkedIn my first year. Probably should have. But I took the little old school approach. I was just really involved. Any chance I was presented with my first semester, my first year at U of L, I took. Even if I wasn't 100% sure that I'd like it or something that I didn't even do before. If I was somewhat interested, I just did my toes in. For me, some of the things that I dipped my toes in that kind of stuck was research. And also, I'm also working for this conference. It's called Thrivals. So essentially, it's like an annual conference that gathers talented young kids in Louisville for it's almost like a think tank type conference. And so none of that would have been possible for me if I didn't just kind of put myself out there, be a part of SAB, ELSB, meeting those upperclassmen that could then, in a lot of ways, mentor me and kind of push me in a direction that they felt like I was kind of leaning towards. But when it comes to, I guess, connecting, really just taking advantage of what's at hand. At U of L, I feel like they have a lot of resources that a lot of people sleep on that are very, I guess, underrated, I guess is the word that you could use. You will not, I mean, there have been so many opportunities for me that I've just taken just for asking an advisor, just for shooting an email to professors I didn't even know, but my advisor said, oh, maybe you should talk to them or something like that. Like, it's endless. And that's honestly one of the biggest things that I have really appreciated about, the advisors that I've had, the faculty and staff that we have at U of L. They've been very helpful. And they're always wanting to, look for students to be involved. They also want us to tell them about it as well so that they can tell other people. And then those experiences and opportunities come your way in return. So.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely correct. It's so important to be involved in your classes and involved with your professors. I mean, you know, always participate in class, stand up and say something if a student, says a point that is contradictory to what is being discussed in class. And professors love that involvement and love that enthusiasm. I obtained my Louisville Metro Council internship from another one of my favorite professors in the School of Political Science, Dr. Wallace. It was the first time I had had her as a professor, and she mentioned that in the fall they were doing a internship with Metro Council. And that afternoon, I was down in her office saying, Dr. Wallace, I want to do this next fall. I know this is premature, but just know that I'm interested in this. And not even, shortly after that fall semester, I was one of the first ones she contacted for that internship, and I got to choose which council person I wanted to be involved with that internship. And about a month later, after I picked that council person, she called me on my cell phone, which I was amazed because I look up to her. She's an inspiration of mine, Dr. Wallace is. And she asked me, she was like, Mark, the president's office is actually wanting an intern to work on this very important research in the city. Would you like to do that? And I said, of course I would. And I feel like that I got that opportunity because I was not shy to speak up. I was not shy to stand up and to show my enthusiasm for the discipline. So it's always important to get involved and always know your professors are your backbone. They want to help you find occupations. They want to help you update your resume. They want to give you opportunities. That's what they're here for. That's what they get paid for. So don't feel shy to utilize those resources at all.
Yes, just piggybacking off of what everyone has said, I definitely feel like getting involved because I'm ashamed to say this, but I actually still don't have a LinkedIn account. But I've made a lot of connections face to face. So like really getting involved. So like Cheatham said, my freshman year, like I'm from Madisonville, so I'm from Western Kentucky. I only knew about 3 people coming to Louisville, but I was like, I'm determined, like this is my university. Like you have to own the university. Like everything that the university has to offer, I can be the person to take every resource that is given to me. So I definitely started getting involved with my scholarship with the Society of Porter Scholars, but professors and advisors is number one, like building a relationship with them. And when I heard that my freshman year, I was like, but they have so many students. Like, why would they want to have any kind of like connection with me? But once I started talking to them, like they want students to want to have a connection with them. Like they know so many people, like Dr. Lau went to Yale. Like he's been doing research for years. Like he has so many connections. So like even I'm taking a class with him now this semester, and the first day of class I went up to him and I was like what do you know about like exit slips and pyramid for elementary students? And he's like, oh well, there's this one professor, well he was one of my advisors for grad school. He does research on like early childhood development. And he was like, here, I'm gonna give you his contact information. It's just like you just never know like the connection that you'll be able to make just by knowing one person. So definitely getting in contact with your professors, building a relationship with him or with them, and making sure that they see you and they know that you are interested and you are really here, so that you can go on past these years and make a change in the world. So
That's great advice, you all. So here we have a few questions in the chat. We'll start with this one. What other experiences besides your classes helped you to decide on your major?
Yeah, actually, this is a really good question. So I would say that, I guess hardships, personal experiences, life experiences for me definitely kind of shaped my major choice or career path. I think that communications was important to me, just because I think that relationship communication is kind of something that has been relevant in my life. And I think that I've been given tools to navigate that. And I also think that I know I'm going into sales now, but my long-term goal is kind of to be involved with mental health advocacy, mental health fundraising, and kind of going down that avenue. And I think that as a communication major, it's given me not only the interpersonal tools, but kind of it's given me, you know, some communication, PR, marketing, those kind of tools too, which I can utilize in that career. So I hope that answers the question.
I guess for me, I'd say it was pretty personal as well. I always knew that I wanted to be in some facet of health. But I think the biggest thing that kind of influenced my trajectory was, you know, where I come from, where my family's from. So I'm a first generation American. My family was born and raised in Nigeria, born during the Biafran genocide in Nigeria. And so knowing specifically my father's story, so he was essentially displaced, was a refugee while the Biafran government kind of raided his town growing up. And so he has scars on his feet of, you know, a story when he was essentially running for his life. And so knowing where my family's from, knowing that, you know, I have all this opportunity because of their sacrifices, I guess that really influenced me to kind of pursue a career that helps people live the healthiest that they can. Kind of having that human to human contact, that experience, understanding what makes people move in this world, essentially, was how I kind of bridged health and science to now public health. Even though I didn't even know what that was before. And knowing that in public health, once I kind of looked into that deeper, I now realize that, oh, there's global health, there's healthcare management, there is behavioral sciences and public health communications and marketing. So like there's all this public health that I wouldn't have even been exposed to if I didn't have this experience to be the driving force to what I ended up wanted to pursue in the first place.
Yeah, and just to build off that very good point, I established that same sense of solidarity at a very young age. I mean, my parents, by no means did we grow up poor. We didn't live paycheck to paycheck, but they are a union family who understand the greed the corporations have and the fact that working class and lower class citizens need to stand together beyond race, beyond class, beyond national birth or origin, and have that sense of solidarity and togetherness. So that inspired me to be within the field of political science. And then a lone senator of Vermont named Bernie Sanders ran for president when I was 18 in 2016. And that even more inspired me to get involved in the political process and get involved in government. So.
Yeah, I would say that I feel like a lot of like our reasons are personal, and like I too have like a personal reason. It's more of like, it wasn't that I had a personal reason and that led to me choosing my major. It was, I took a psychology class and I was like, oh my gosh, like everything is coming together. So like just like I've always been interested in like, why are people in situations that are in? Why do people behave certain ways? Like, why do people do the things they do? And so when I took a psychology class, I was like, wow, like this is really interesting. Like this is something that I've been thinking about my whole life, but I didn't even know that like this is what psychology is. So it's really just like taking the classes, and then once you're in the class, you're like, whoa, like this is it. This is what I've been like searching for my whole life. So yeah, I guess outside of classes, it would probably be like doing community service. Because once I did community service, that's when I was like, oh, well, why are people in these situations? Like, why does this happen to them? Why are they like this? Why do they behave this way? And not everything is explained, but psychology does take a deeper look into like social groups and things like that. So.
All right, so I know that one of our panelists is going to have to leave a little bit early. So this might be your last question, Arabella, but this is in the chat. So would you recommend enrolling in college for students who are not initially interested in going to college or just unsure of its importance?
Yeah, this is another great question. I kind of have mixed opinions about it. So pretty much, I actually did take a gap year in between high school and college, and I found it extremely beneficial, and I would recommend it to anyone. But I think it kind of depends on really what you want. I definitely think the job market today and getting a job is definitely easier with that undergraduate degree. However, college is not for everyone. I think you can be successful without an undergraduate degree as well. And also, I think a lot of it has to kind of do with, where you are in your life, mentally, physically, if you can afford it, even. So I think it kind of depends on the person. It's a person to person kind of basis. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think it just kind of depends. I definitely would say, though, that I have had a great experience in college. I've been fortunate enough to attend it. I'm grateful for all the professors I've had in the education. So I would say that if you are interested, then definitely go through with it if it's possible. And once again, I did take a break in between high school and college, and it was extremely beneficial for my growth. So that's an option too. So that's my opinion on that.
I also agree with Arabella in terms of it really just depends on one's personal position, what their aspirations are. Because there are a lot of jobs that you can't really get without particular degrees or proof of, a master's in, whatever that education is. But I don't think it's essential in a lot of jobs, especially today in 2021, where a lot of the things that we learn in class can easily be learned outside of class. But I also feel like in terms of, the college experience, the people you meet, the resources you have at your disposal, I feel like there are a lot of aspects of that experience that you can't really duplicate. But again, it just depends on, the personal position.
Yeah, I mean, personal position has a whole lot to do with it, whether it be financial or you can attend college at that given time. There are a whole lot of occupations in the world today that don't require a college degree that are still, honorable to pursue. However, anyone who may be unsure about going to college at first may find it more beneficial to attend a community college, such as JCTC, where you don't necessarily have to have a dedicated path forward. You just study in that given discipline or within that, like the transferable degrees, and you figure out what you want to do after that. They also have incredible programs such as the workforce program that has apprenticeships such as electricians, plumbers, construction workers, all sorts of that. So there are options available such as community college and occupational job that are there.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with what all the panelists have said. One thing that I will add is that if you are in the position to go to college, so like everyone said, like financially, I would definitely recommend, because one thing that I've learned about college is that when I came in, I was like, oh yeah, like it's just about the classes, like it's just about the schoolwork, it's just about me learning what the professors are teaching, and it's not. Like it's way more. And I've had conversations with like people I've grown up with, and it's just like we've learned so much more in college that we did not learn in class. Like just being able for me to talk to you on this panel, me being able to know like what am I supposed to say, how am I supposed to talk, what like language am I supposed to use, being able to talk to professors, reach out to professors, even write an email. Like some of those things, like I didn't learn that in class, but that's a lot of things. Like you just grow so much, and you have a lot of development over college that's not even in the classes. So if you think about the broader aspect, like you really grow as a person. Coming to college, you're by yourself. You don't have your parents breathing down your neck. You get to make decisions on your own, and you get to truly like be and find yourself in college. And there's so many opportunities. So I would definitely say if you're in the position to attend a college, then that's a really good idea.
Thank you all. And thank you for those questions. Very good questions that you brought to the discussion. As we're wrapping up here, the final question, and let us know if you have any last questions. So, we hear from students a lot that they're just afraid they're going to make the wrong decision, whether it's the wrong major, the wrong career path. Can you just give us or give our students some advice on that and making those decisions when it comes to their major or their career?
Yeah, so I would say to begin, I don't think there's ever really a wrong decision. I think maybe you can learn from a decision or change your mind, but I think definitely just take the initiative to make the decision. And for me, it was really hard when I switched majors. I was very indecisive. I was kind of nervous. I was like, is this the right decision? What helped me the most was definitely talking to my advisor, and also talking to a few professors about my decision. I think it kind of gave me a feeling of support, like someone was backing me up, that, I was right in my decision. And then again, just trying out different classes within your, gen eds is really helpful. I think over time, throughout the classes and, the courses you take, you'll learn, maybe this was the right decision. And if not, you can always change again. I think another thing that people are hard on themselves about is kind of the timeline, graduate in 4 years. And if some people change their majors a lot and can do that, and some people don't. And so definitely don't get mad at yourself if you take longer, because at the end of the day, it's an experience and you're learning about what you like and what you don't like. So I think it's really important to just find that, stick with it, be confident in your decision, and you'll get through it.
I would say take your time, take your sweet time, because everything might be moving or projecting. Your friends might be moving along in whatever career they feel like was the best thing to pursue, but their path is not the same as yours. And at the end of the day, everyone's paths are going in different directions. And whether your path is headed in the opposite direction, as long as you are excelling and growing and maintaining your physical, mental health, because these are things that are all important. And I feel like a lot of students kind of struggle with that just because they feel the pressure of having to make a decision now, especially if it comes from your parents or your friends, or even the society that we live in right now, the very hustle culture that comes with the Western world. All of that plays a huge factor in, our own ideas of who we are, where we should be. So kind of understanding that, your time is coming. Delayed does not mean denied. Whatever that is that you are pursuing or wanting to pursue, take your time with it. Because every day that passes, every moment, every hour spent in the library is building up, and it's making you into someone good enough for whatever that is. So just take your time, be kind to yourself, because I know that sometimes I'm not. And in that experience, I know that, I don't have to be the best all the time, and that's not sustainable either, nor is it realistic. So just being mindful of, we'll all get there eventually, and just be patient.
Taking your time is very important. And much like Arabella, I took a gap year as well. I graduated from high school and I worked full time as a geek sport repair agent for a year. And I made a good amount of money financially, and I really got to decide what I wanted to do and what I wanted to major in. And I just want to retouch on the point that I brought up earlier, and that is fulfillment, passion. What do you feel in your heart of hearts that you want to make a difference about in this world? Because there is a whole lot of change that must come, that has to come soon. And when you think about a major, when you think about a career path, don't just think about figures on a spreadsheet. That can change. People get laid off. Corporations become absolved. Times change. Think of what fulfills you most in your heart of hearts and what you really want to do with your career. And that's my advice.
Yes, that was great again. So I would just like to start with I I have been in the situation or in the predicament of like, am I making the wrong decision? But I don't even remember who told me this, but it really stuck with me. And it's like, the question that always comes up is what makes the decision wrong? So for you to think that like, this is a wrong decision, why is it wrong? Just because it doesn't work, that doesn't make it wrong. That just made it not the right one, so it's not like it's the wrong decision because you're learning from it. So like, for instance, when I came as a biology major, I mean, you could say that's a wrong decision because I changed, but really I learned a lot while I was doing that. I learned that I didn't like biology. And like, that's something that I'm glad I learned early on than later on when I'm like, oh, let me take a biology class. And then it's like too late. So I would just say, like, just ask yourself, like, what would make the decision wrong? Because in any experience you can learn. Like me, I was in that when I was choosing if I wanted to move to Houston to teach, like moving hours away from Kentucky. I haven't been in a big city. I've never been to Houston. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the wrong decision. But I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is what? Like, say that it doesn't work out. Okay, I can move back home, try something else. But that doesn't make my decision wrong. I had a learning experience. So if you think of everything as a learning experience, you'll never make a wrong decision because everything's going to help you learn. So that's my advice.
That was such wonderful advice, you all. I really have just enjoyed hearing from you all. And I know our students have too. A big thank you to you panelists today and also for our participants. We've had a great discussion. And so I hope that you found this panel to be beneficial as you start this new year and this new semester. Just some final thoughts. Be sure to log into Handshake and keep an eye out for our upcoming events, as well as schedule appointment if you have any questions about your next steps or you're unsure about your plan. We're here to help you and guide you through that process. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Any final thoughts or any last things we want to cover?
I want to say the panel has been amazing. You guys can email me anytime. This has been an amazing event, and I look forward to talking with you all again. So thank you all so much. This has been lovely.
What Mark said, this has been a pleasure. I enjoyed this. And thank you so much, Mallory, for inviting us and including us in this conversation.
Yeah, thanks everyone for coming. I hope this information was beneficial and informative for you guys. Thanks, Mallory.
Well, thank you all. And we hope to do more of these in the future and for the remainder of the semester. So I'll be in touch. Thank you all.